Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're tackling AS and A-level accounting, you already know the stakes are incredibly high. The margin for error? It's razor thin. But what if I told you that the difference between settling for a standard B grade and locking in that elusive A star often comes down to one absolutely foundational area? It all hinges on mastering the advantages and disadvantages of different business entities. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to conquer this critical syllabus area so you can walk into that exam room fully prepared to capture literally every single mark available. Let's get into it.
And hey, you don't just have to take my word for it. This quote comes straight from a senior examiner. We're utilizing actual data directly from real Cambridge Principal Examiner reports. We're going covert today, looking right inside the examiner's mind to see exactly where students drop marks and, way more importantly, where the top candidates pick them up. We're going to decode their expectations so you can deliver exactly what they want to see on your paper.
Here's our quick agenda for today's session. First, mastering the assessment objectives. Second, the method mark strategy. Third, executing comparative analysis. Fourth, top examiner warnings. And finally, exam execution and formatting. Section 1. Mastering the assessment objectives. Elevating your cognitive domain. Okay, so successful candidates really need to climb 3 distinct cognitive tiers here. You start at the base level with knowledge and understanding, simply knowing your sole traders from your partnerships in limited companies. But listen, that is just the foundational architecture. From there, you've got to step up to analysis, where you break down how these structures actually impact a real business. And finally, you reach the absolute top tier, evaluation. This is where you make justified recommendations. You aren't just copy-pasting a textbook answer. You're assessing a dynamic situation and making a high-level, critical judgment. To hit those top marks, your foundational architecture demands really precise definitions. But beyond that, examiners are aggressively looking for causal relationships. It is absolutely not enough to simply state that a sole trader has full control or a limited company has limited liability. No, you need to explain the cause and effect. Think because X, therefore Y. For instance, because a limited company has limited liability, the shareholders' holders' personal assets are protected, which therefore makes it significantly easier to raise substantial capital compared to a sole trader who's relying entirely on personal savings. See the difference? Furthermore, the principal examiner reports highlight a massive point here. Candidates who referenced cross-topic connections, like integrating business entities with other syllabus areas like capital structure or ratio analysis, those are the candidates achieving significantly higher marks. Now here is a major examiner alert straight from the reports. Candidates consistently confuse terminology when discussing business entities. Words absolutely matter. You must explicitly define your terms before deploying them in your extended responses. If you use a term vaguely or just slightly incorrectly, you face immediate examiner penalties. So lock down your vocabulary first before you start building your arguments. Moving right along to Section 2, the method mark strategy, earning points through process. Walk through this strict 6-step procedural framework with me, all right? First, you deconstruct the question. What is the specific command word asking you to do? Second, extract data from the stimulus. Third, select your analytical framework. Fourth, execute with clear notation. Fifth, verify your results. And finally, sixth, present your answer using that strict terminology we literally just talked about. This strategy heavily rewards the process itself. Examiners desperately want to see exactly how you arrived at your answer step by step. When you extract data from the provided stimulus materials, your goal isn't just to act like a parrot and repeat the numbers back to the examiner. No way. You need to interpret the relationships within that data and use them to draw hard, evidence-based conclusions. So if the text shows a partnership struggling to raise capital for an expansion, well, that's your specific evidence to evaluate why a transition to a limited company might actually be necessary. Okay, Section 3, executing comparative analyses, unlocking the top bands. So, the absolutely crucial point to remember here is that true comparative analysis requires a multi-layered approach. You must identify both similarities and differences between business entities. To do this effectively, you've really got to use specific comparative connectives. I'm talking about words like whereas, conversely, or on the other hand. Every single comparison has to be supported with evidence from the stimulus. And ultimately, you have to conclude on the relative importance of these factors. Which advantage outweighs the other and exactly why? That, right there, is true evaluation.
Section 4. Top 3 examiner warnings, traps to avoid.
Let's look at warning number 1. The very first and honestly perhaps most damaging mistake candidates make is failing to provide concrete depth in their answers.
Seriously, compare a vague cloud of a generalized statement like, a sole trader has all the risk. Examiners just glaze over and ignore this. Contrast that with the lockdown precision of an A-star answer. A key disadvantage is unlimited liability, exposing personal assets to settle debts. Boom. Examiners demand specific, precise details regarding advantages and disadvantages. Generic fluff won't cut it.
Moving on to the second major examiner warning. This one focuses entirely on the visual layout and structure of your answers. Students frequently get so caught up in crunching the calculations or building their arguments that they totally forget to check their format and presentation. You are developing professional skills here, folks. Think about it. Examiners read thousands of papers. Don't make them hunt for your brilliant analysis in a chaotic, unformatted scribble. Present your information exactly as a professional accountant would. Use proper headings, correct terminology, and really clear annotations. You will literally throw away easy marks if you submit work with poor formatting. All right, let's look at the third and final critical examiner warning. This one is all about the context of your application. There is a massive night and day difference between reciting generic facts and tailoring your answer specifically to the unique context of the stimulus materials provided. Let's say the exam question is about a local bakery looking to open a second branch. Your answer absolutely should not just list generic textbook pros and cons of a partnership. You must apply those pros and cons to that specific bakery situation using the exact data provided. Context-specific application is 100% mandatory if you want those top bands.
Finally, Section 5, Exam Execution and Formatting, bringing it all together.
I want to share a really powerful memory hack with you before we wrap up. Look, the concepts surrounding business entities can get pretty dense and dry. So to securely encode these varying advantages and disadvantages into your long-term memory, try utilizing a visual story method. Don't just blindly memorize bullet points. Instead, visualize a super stressed out sole trader carrying a massive, heavy backpack representing their unlimited liability, and then picture a giant corporate shield completely protecting the personal home of a limited company's shareholder. Building these vivid, slightly ridiculous visual narratives makes the data instantly recallable when you're under the pressure of the exam clock.
So, I'll leave you with this final, vital question. How will you adapt your exam strategy to capture those elusive evaluation marks? The examiner's playbook is no longer a secret. We've cracked it open today. Your next past paper shouldn't just be a stressful test of memory. It should be a precise execution of strategy. Now go out there and secure that A-star.